Mr. Scott Sandland, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
No, it's my pleasure. This is our what we call our revisiting with some of the special leaders who care, and just telling us about what's new and exciting in your ventures. And I know there's some good stuff going on, so tell us.
Yeah, since you and I last talked, we had just launched, either we were about to or had just launched our Zoom tool when you and I talked last. And so we hit, in 2 months, we hit 20,000 users on the tool. And now we're 3 months and we're processing over 1 million minutes of Zoom conversations every month. And just that means we've generated a ton of inbound interest for a bunch of other integrations. I'm having a conversation, I'm having 2 conversations in the next week or 2 with veterans groups who want to start talking about how they can use our tool for whether it be crisis hotlines or support networks, those kinds of things. So we've got cool stuff going on the commercial side, which is great, and that's going to keep the lights on, and that's going to generate a bunch of revenue, which is a good thing. And more as it relates to this conversation, we've earned this spot at the table to have conversations about using this technology to help others.
Yeah, so first of all, remind me, how did you come across the name of the company?
Cyrano, my co-founder, came up with it. The idea of Cyrano is the story of, people might remember from the Steve Martin movie. He has the big nose, and he's a firefighter, and he falls in love with Daryl Hannah, and he tells the good-looking guy what to say. That's a remake of the story of Cyrano. And we realized, like, our go-to-market strategy was going to be white labeling and API integrations. So people were going to so you're already using a product, you're going to add us to that product to make that product better. And he said, it's like, we're Cyrano. We're going to make the customers fall in love with you, but they're going to fall in love with you, not us. And I was like, oh, that's perfect. And so we stuck with it, even though a bunch of people pronounce it Cyrano and think we are named after like some sort of pepper.
Or a pizza shop or
yeah,
something.
Exactly.
I think the name's great. If nothing else, people say, where'd you get the name?
Yeah, and anybody who pronounces it correctly like you did, that tells us something. And anybody who pronounces it wrong, we're like, okay, we've got to do a better job educating about what we do. Because when people have heard the story of Cyrano de Bergerac, what we do makes more sense to them faster.
So tell us a little bit about, so how does it, you talked about veterans and it would help them, or in the talent business, like I want to talk to you about, how does tell people, what does it mean that you had 1 million minutes used? How is that valuable?
Sure. So it means that we can continue to refine our models. So, in machine learning, data is everything, right? Everyone says like data is the new oil. And when we first built Cyrano, we had such good initial results that we kind of got arrogant, to be honest. Like we overbuilt, we over-engineered, and we extended ourselves a little too much because we said, well, look, our proof of concept is killer. Everyone's going to want to give us their data and work with us. And then that was the month that Mark Zuckerberg went and testified before Congress, and they read him the Riot Act for giving his data to Cambridge Analytica. So all of the data deposits closed their doors. And they're like, we're not giving some random startup who wants to do psychographic profiling our data, our customer data. That seems like a lawsuit for us. And so we said, we need to be able to generate our own data. And that's a bold thing for a startup to say, look, we want to generate tens and hundreds of thousands of data points on our own with no traction is a tricky thing to do. But we said, we've got to. And we'll also, partner with people and get their data and all that stuff. And that's obviously still on the table. But we now have, millions of minutes of conversations that we can use to continue to refine our system to make it better at being a better listener and a more empathetic advisor for future conversations.
Is it also for determining what trends people are talking about? Does it?
Kind of. We don't focus much on like what the nouns are, like what the subject of the conversation is. Like, let's just, what our system won't do right now, we could make it do this, but we don't do like, hey, a bunch of people want to refinance their house, or hey, everyone's talking about interest rates. Our system is much more, hey, people are having shorter, more committed conversations, or people are much more wishy-washy than they used to be, or things like that. We can find those sorts of themes and patterns.
So who would be, who are the main, I'm going to say culprits. That's not the right word. Who is the main customer that would benefit the most from it right from the start?
The customer I want the most is the Teen Crisis Hotline. And there's another one from moveon.org. They created a text line that's a crisis support line too for teenagers and adolescents. Both of those are the thing I want to point us at. And right now we're doing work to get into like Zendesk and things like that to prove our live capabilities, which I know we have, I just need to prove it. But I think our Zoom traction translates well enough that we can, like I said, earn the seat at the table. So right now, that's who I'm targeting. Is I know it's going to take a while, and I'm fine with that, but those are the people. And call centers is the commercial side of that. So call and customer service support, that's what we're looking at now. And then the reason we're doing that is so we can do the other thing.
Yeah, I actually know the founder of the Crisis Text Hotline.
You really?
Yeah, and so
oh my gosh,
we can talk about that and some other people. But no, this is super exciting, and we may have talked about this before, but real brief. How did this all come to come for you?
So I was the executive director and CEO of a mental health clinic here in Orange County. It was called the Newport Clinic, and we had like a staff of like 10 or 12, and we were next to Newport Harbor High School. And my goal was to work with teens and adolescents. And then we were also partnered with 7 or 8 drug rehab centers. So we were working with a bunch of drug addicts under 30 and a bunch of high school kids. And that's what we were doing. And I mean, we had a group therapy room, we had individual rooms. At our peak, we were doing 40 hours of group therapy a week. And one day I walked into the office, there was a group session going on in the group room with 20 or 30 people in it. We had 1 or 2 of our treatment rooms had a person in it. And I shared my office with the clinical director. We had a shared office. And I went in, he was already there. And I sat down and like, I just had this overwhelming feeling where I just said, man, I feel like the best paid garbage man in Orange County. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, we're making money, we're doing well, but we're getting here too late. Like everybody in the building, we needed to talk to 5 years ago. And we're just picking up the pieces with them. But I'd really like to get on the prevention side rather than the, treatment side of things. And I believe that cell phones were the way to do it, or technology was the way to do it. Finding something that could scale and help people when the problems are smaller was what I envisioned.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and to say the least, understatement of the world. Mental health is a huge pandemic right now. Huge.
And yeah, so the statistic that drove me to this is, obviously COVID is a very serious thing, and a lot of people and families have been impacted in many, many ways by it. I think in the US, we topped out at like 2,000-ish deaths a day, which is a huge number. For the last 10 years, 3,000 high school students have attempted suicide every day. So every day in America, just high school, not junior high school, not college, 4 years, 3,000 kids are trying to kill themselves a day. Now, that doesn't include the kids who get over-medicated or under-medicated or drop out of school or. That's just the ones that have gotten to that point. And when you put it in those kind of terms, where you say it is a COVID level epidemic, and fortunately most of them aren't successful in suicide every day. But way too many are. It's the second leading cause of death under 24 in America. It's
horrendous.
Yeah. So we're supposed to be like, we're the greatest nation in the world, and the kids are killing themselves on purpose. And if you look at that and you say, that's probably going to be fine or take care of itself, I don't even know where the next sentence goes, right? So I figure if we're going to try to do anything to impact the world, it should probably be have the young people want to stay in it.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant, and it's right on the money, which is part of the problem, because I've seen a lot of young people feel that they have to monetize every single minute of their time.
Yeah,
now
you got
too.
12-year-olds with like CVs and resumes, right? And they don't have hobbies. They have extracurricular activities that look good. And you're like, what happened? Like, you're not 12. You're on a track. And so helping those kids to be self-actualized, happy, complete human beings, or at least on a path towards that, where they feel like they have some sort of stake in themselves, is what I've spent the last decade on.
Yeah, look how you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's basically just a cautionary tale. Yeah. I mean, that's all it is. You know, I'm just looking back at. Honestly, it's kind of true. I mean, I was okay, but that idea of like looking back at high school, everyone had somewhere between 6th and 10th grade. Everyone had some tough days and tough times, and nobody is arguing that there's too much help for them. And so finding the right resources for what you wish you had at that age is a really easy question to ask ourselves.
Well, I think everybody should check this out, Cyrano, and you're going to be hearing a lot about it. So thanks, Scott, for giving us the revisit and the update, and keep making a difference.
Thank you, and thank you for what you're doing. I love it.